Tango 1 at the top, we are at Papa Coco. 10-4, Tango 1, you have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're ruining the Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
And sleek
with it. Spritzer. All right, guys. Welcome to the Tango 1 podcast. I'm your host, Tony Smith. This is my co-host, Casey Wright. Our job and our mission every week on this show is to challenge you to do more and be more, take action against your weaknesses. Today, we have a couple of prime examples of that. Two of my best friends, my longest standing friendships. I got Stacyszyn and Joe Morden. Ty's a realtor. He's an appraiser, an investor, and a landlord. He wears a lot of hats, but they're all in the same game. He's a father and a husband. The top producer at Deerbrook Realty since 2013. And Joe from Morden Realty is an investor. He's got his hands in real estate and several other non-traditional avenues for building wealth. About a year ago, he quit his six-figure job with benefits and pension to go all in on this real estate gig and hasn't looked back. He's also a father of three and a husband to a beautiful wife. So welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Pretty pumped to have you guys on here today. This is the first time on this show we've really talked money. So here and there it gets brought up, and real estate has been one of the topics that's been brought up in other shows talking about investments. So outside of Haas, I don't think we really talked about money at all. So today in this episode, I'd love to talk about some investments, some of those wealth strategies that you guys are using, what it's like to be your own boss, because both of you guys are part of that. And then talk lifelong friendships, because that's what the three of us have as, becoming part. We are basically family, and now we got this little kid brother who's joined our circle, and that's what it's about, I think. And I think that Casey will actually benefit hugely from this, because he starts in the fire department. Now he's starting to look at putting away for his retirement. So hopefully we can build on that knowledge. You guys can help everybody.
Cool.
All right. Yep. Let's do this.
Yep.
Okay, so Joe, let's start with you, man. Let's go back. You're 30 years old. So Joe is what year older than me.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys know I'm 42. Joe's 43. You're 30 years old. You're in debt just like I was.
Yeah.
Even though we were both killing it, making six figures. You're working for the city. I was working for the city. And you were back then. I remember you actually speaking about let's start looking at properties. We were, Joe and I were roommates for a long time. Ty was a non-paying roommate who just slept over every Thursday to Sunday. But yeah, so how did this all begin, man? Now you're retired, and let's just start from there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, at 30 years old, I think I was in debt, credit card debt too, the worst kind. Took me about 5 years. We started looking at real estate. I always knew it was a good investment, but I was kind of talked out of it for all the downfalls, as far as being a landlord to tenants and things like that. At 35 years old, I finally made the plunge and bought a duplex with my brother. So we bought our first property. We kind of, just soon after that, my son was born. So we kind of nicknamed that property, that was Grant's property. So he owned half of it, and that was going to be his retirement or his education fund. So that was the idea. When we found out we were pregnant for our second one, we said, hey, maybe we should buy another property. And so I actually left the hospital while Julie was in just after delivery.
I'm okay,
to meet with
the
Ty.
Baby was out.
Yeah, the baby was out. Baby was out. But I left the hospital
There's no time
to to go and meet Ty at a property we had planned to meet at. So that's how it kind of snowballed. And then we had another kid, so we bought another property. After that, there was a little bit of a lull until I realized the power that those three properties provided me. We had built up all this equity. Real estate had gone up quite a bit. And that's when we made a decision hey, let's really put our efforts into this thing and see where it can take us. So about 2 years after that, we'd purchased 2 more properties, and my wife Julie made a suggestion. She's like, "Why don't you just quit your job and let's try this full time?" So that's what happened. I quit Enwin. I put a lot of effort into learning different avenues on wealth creation, not doing your typical stashing money away in RSPs, because I couldn't get into that. My dad was always stressing that to me, but I always felt like I didn't want to give somebody the power to hold my money for 30 years, for me to take it out in 30 years, hoping that I wasn't going to be making what I was now. My goal was to build wealth long term and have more money when I was 60 years old than I had when I was 40. So I wanted that. I didn't need that tax break now and then have to pay tax later on that money. So that's what kind of led me into all the different avenues that we can probably talk about.
Wow, that is crazy. And to look at it as an education fund and like purchasing for your family, it gives you even more motivation to do so. Sure. And I remember like when you were, obviously I quit like maybe a year before you, something like that. Yeah. And you were basically like right on my toes, and you're like, "Hey, I want to do this too. Like, what's it feel like?" And it's a big move that first day. And then, but like, since you've quit, do you miss? You were hard working. You enjoyed your other job just like I did.
Yeah, I really did enjoy it. Once I started real estate, I started falling in love with real estate, and then that job just kind of became a hindrance on my time. So do I miss it? No. The only thing I miss really is just the guys, the relationships at that job.
Yeah, man, same with me.
Yeah.
And then Ty. So Ty, you were working in, I guess I'd call it media, what you were doing, right? Like internet and building
web design
and stuff. And you were one of my stops that I'd make in my morning coffee route when I was a cop, because you were downtown. I'd go sit in your office all the time. You didn't seem to really love it. And then all of a sudden it was like, you told us, "Hey, I'm going to start doing this real estate course." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like you'd had a few jobs over the time and we didn't think much of it. And then all of a sudden I feel like it was like within a minute you were killing it and all over this. And you also like quit your career and kind of never looked back. What was it for you?
Well, for me, I mean, I was kind of forced into a decision. At that point, it was like, what route do you want to go? I could see the writing on the wall at the company I was at that, we had built up. I think I was the 6th or 7th employee hired. We got up to like in the 80s, I think, with an office in Ohio, and everything was booming. And then, just mismanagement kind of tore things down, and you could see people just getting axed left and right. And they had basically closed the Ohio office. I think there was 3 people left there, and then all of the higher ups that were even above me that came in after me were getting axed because they were making more money, right? So I knew that it was going to fall down to me, and I was managing like 9 or 10 designers, but we were working from home. They couldn't even afford to pay like rent, so they put us at home to work. And I was doing outside sales, so I was calling basically university college coaches, athletic coaches, to try and push our software on them, which was we had great software. We just didn't, the boat was missed there. So anyway, I could see that I was going to get canned, and I had to start to decide, like, what am I going to do? And at the time, Windsor-Essex County wasn't a huge web design, multimedia type area. If I wanted to get a good job, I was probably going to head back up north to Toronto, or east to Toronto. So, and I didn't want to. I mean, I got comfortable here, my friends, my family. So I had my feet up on the desk one day down in my office, and I'm just like, real estate. I had always loved real estate. I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, and that had changed my mentality on the focus on how to do things properly and get out of the rat race. And so at that point, I literally picked up the phone. I called my mom and I said, because I had no money, I said, "Mom, I want to take real estate courses. I think that would be a good thing." She's like, "I think you'd be really good at that." And she said, "I'll pay for whatever it takes for you to get your license." And I said, "Well, thank you," and basically just off and running from that point on. I bartended a little bit, at a few different bars downtown to
shout out Treehouse,
subsidize Treehouse symbol, to subsidize the income a little bit. And we lived at my Windermere duplex that I still owned. We lived upstairs together and had our first kid there. And kind of never turned back. It was a great fit, and I wish I would have started earlier. That's the only thing I would have done differently, is started earlier.
Yeah, they say there's never a bad time to buy real estate, right? I mean, funny story, Ty, you bought that first duplex with Drummond while you were still working at your old job. And I was the lawyer for that agreement, if you remember. You bought it off a guy that was on our team. and we had been out partying all night long, and now we're working the SWAT team, and we go into his office so I was making the connection, the liaison between these guys to make this purchase of this guy Dave's house. So Drummond and Ty were gonna buy it, and Ty, I go and I'm literally sleeping in the closet of his office while they're brokering this deal, and Ty's boss comes in. He's like, looks at us in uniform, and then looks at me laying on the ground in uniform. He's like, "Who's that?"
My lawyer.
Ty's like, "That's my lawyer." I was so hungover, I slept in there. Well, they did that, but I remember at that time, like, you guys were kind of like, remember, it was like, oh man, we might have overpaid for this, and we've all had that funny conversation. Joe, I remember when you bought your house in in Point West, let's just give the area, and it was like the most expensive house anybody has ever bought. It was like you were looking in like the threes or whatever. We were all like, whoa, you're crazy. I remember you and I having long conversations about this, and now you can't even find a fucking like shack for $3. It's it's crazy what's happened in this world. So let's actually, I was gonna bring this up later, but Ty, you mentioned it. So both of you guys in like your bio thing, the funniest bios I had to ever send, because I literally know everything about you guys. But your book, both that you recommended, and it just got recommended to me by somebody else. It's been recommended to me so many times. I don't know why I haven't read it, and you should probably read it, Case. Is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rich Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Yeah. Just maybe let's cover that just a little bit. If anybody was going to buy a book, it seems like that just keeps getting recommended over and over. Maybe we can push some people to actually go and buy that. I can get some credits on Amazon. Can we somehow link that? Yeah. Yes, go ahead. Whatever one you guys want to kind of.
The concept of the book is basically that he had what he called two dads. He had his dad, who was like a kind of a corporate America type position that, he instilled in his son, work hard, work at something that gets you a pension so that you can retire with benefits and blah, 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 right? And then he had this other dad, and I'm drawing a blank on who this guy was, but he was like his mentor. And he was the opposite. He was, business oriented and had different mindset. You're constantly going to be working for somebody else and paying them, as opposed to, working hard for yourself and earning your wage and building your own business, tax implications, all these different things. And the concept was once you're in that, they call it the rat race. Once you're in that rat race and you're in that wheel and you're constantly just trying, you work to make your payments, you save a little bit, you work to make your payments, and some people are comfortable with that, but at the end of the day, you're banking that this company's still going to be around. You're going to have a good pension so that when you're 60 or whatever, you can actually retire comfortably. It just didn't fit for me. That's not what I wanted to do. And after reading that book, it just gave a lot of clarity. And then obviously he talks about real estate and how there's so many different ways to build wealth in real estate. And that's what I got out of it. It's been so long since I read it. I should read it again.
No, you're right on. It's probably the most influential real estate book. If you talk to real estate investors that have really impacted them, it changes your mindset for sure.
So you guys always talk, everybody says it all the time, is investing in real estate, and that's the way to, you can't lose with doing that. But when I think of and listen to the story of you guys all getting into this 10 years ago, right? And then I think of what kind of the price range of some of these places are, getting started at those, now looking back on pretty low prices for things. How would you, or what advice would you say to somebody closer to my shoes, where it's you're trying to get into real estate, and right now seems like the most insane time ever to get involved in real estate because it's higher than it's ever been, and you even wonder if it's going to continue to go up. So how do you change the outlook to is that still your thought, go for it, or is there a point where it seems almost undoable?
I think you still got to go for it, but I think you got to change your strategy a little bit. There's different strategies, different opportunities. So you have to dig a little deeper to find those opportunities, whether you're taking a single family home and making it into a duplex, or maybe you're buying a fourplex and you're going to house hack it, or you live in one of the units and you rent out the other 3 units. And you do that for a couple of years, and then you can move on to your dream home. It's getting in the market is the hard part, but once you're in it, then that equity is going to continue to grow for you.
All right.
And especially with the banks loving his steady job,
For sure.
Let's call her your common law has the same thing, right? And you already have a home. I think that's the hugest thing, and that was one of the things that really helped all three of us get going. Is we did buy homes young. I bought my house at 22. I just sold that baby for almost 3.5. Ty just sold that. Let's get that. Shout out to Deerbrook Realty's top broker. Ty sold that baby for me for 3.5 times what I paid for it. And eventually all these properties they just continue to grow. It's so wild how this is happening.
It's crazy. But I wonder though too, we're lucky, like that being said, like Brooke and I were lucky to have, like we bought over a year ago now, but we were like, we fucked up, like things are crashing, like we were nervous. Obviously now we're happy about it and it worked out. But I think about people like, especially now living in the GTA area, and I wonder, like, I couldn't imagine being me 4 or 5 years ago, right? Trying, like, the starting value for a lot of the places in our area is like $1.2 million. It's like, how do you even get off the ground, be like working a regular job with, even if you do have a decent income at 22, 23 years old, like, is the bank mortgage rates going low enough for this to be available for people? Is there like other ways?
Talking locally or like where you're at? Like there's a little bit of difference because of
let's
Toronto.
stick with locally here.
Yeah, I mean, everybody says prices are so crazy it's hard to make money as an investor. It's still pretty relative. So like when we were buying houses for $210,000, $190,000, rent was $800 a month. $900 a month was a good take, right? Now, anything 2 bedrooms, 1 bath that's nice or even half nice, $1,500-$1,600 a month, right? So yes, the values have gone up, but the rents are going up. And I personally believe, and it's kind of unfortunate, that because our values are continuing to go up in our area and people's, household incomes aren't necessarily going up, we're going to start to price out some of the first-time home buyers and in some cases second-time home buyers. You got to look at a $600,000 mortgage. That's like, you need 2 people making $100K for that to be comfortable. And we don't have a lot of that. So I feel like that's going to create a lot more renters because they need to save some money, right? So people say, oh, it's a bad time, market's high, it's a bad time. What's the saying they say? It's time in the market, not timing the market.
Right.
Just get in, right? Get in. So if you're going to be a real estate investor, yes, be creative. Try and find something that you can add a suite to, or what we like is stuff that we can completely redo because you get more value out of it. But try and find reasons not to buy. That's you're going to be looking back 5 years later saying, crap,
Should have done it then.
yeah.
I think,
Go ahead.
I think a lot of places in Toronto specifically, everything's shrinking. So like you used to, for $1 million, you used to get X amount of size of condo, right? But that's now shrinking. So the prices aren't necessarily going up per property that's being built, but those things being built are much smaller.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about, so if at a certain point and you're dealing with this with your nephew and from a business, if the garage gym wants to grow, eventually I will need to have a trusted partner. I will need to, and you guys have become a partnership. We'll talk about what you guys are getting into and doing together maybe in a bit, but like in terms of Casey or like your nephew or first time home buyers right now, they need to find somebody or people like you guys who are doing like investment projects where we can pull the deed and you guys are kind of backing us type thing. What are some of those maybe strategies that people could use? But also like when you go into like, it's very hard, and I've done it, to hand over $100,000, $200,000 to somebody and trust them. What are maybe some things that have helped you guys partner with other people or even together? Obviously we have a different relationship, but it's still, that's got to be a concern in your minds, is that, you guys have known each other 25 plus years. We've literally traveled. We call each other family. Mm-hmm. Your uncles to each other's children and mine. That's a concern, right? Like money between friendships and then money with strangers even more so. Maybe what are some things that you look for in a good partnership and how would you go about that? Blow you away with that one. That's a long-winded question.
Personally,
10
like,
questions
that was
in
always
one.
a rule of thumb, right? Don't get into business with family or friends. So it's something you always try and tiptoe around. But I just feel like when Joe and I decided to work together, like I was showing Joe so many houses because he was the investor. I mean, I had a couple, but he constantly just showing him properties. And being an investor and a realtor is it's tough because I have to take a step back and let everybody buy the good stuff, right? So I'm constantly showing properties to him or to other people, and I'm like, man, I want to buy this house. I want to buy this house, but I got to let them buy it because that's my job. So it got to a point where we were walking through properties. I'm like, I'd buy this, and he just said at one point, well, let's do one together. Let's do this one together. And I think it was a complete gut, like a flip. And I don't think we got the first couple that we bid on, but then eventually we got one, and I don't know, it's a good fit between us. I think we both have the same personality. I think that's key. You can't have, it's very difficult to have one bullheaded person and one passive person because it'll just constantly, somebody's always having to give up and somebody's always trying to lead. But I don't know, we both have very passive, laid back personalities. we don't really argue about anything, so it just seems a good fit, the two of us. I don't know. I don't know what the key to success is, but like I say, if you don't have matching personalities, or at least have some type of a friendship as a base to go by, I would be very, very cautious entering something into that. I've never given my money to somebody yet, and I'm not opposed to it, and just say, here's my investment, talk to you in a year, see how it goes. I'm up for that, but I would really have to do my research, know the person, see their track record, things like that. Just, it's a lot more comfortable knowing the people that you're working with.
It's matching haircuts.
Matching haircuts. So, yeah, I mean, along the lines of family and friends and not doing business with them, I actually take the opposite approach.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to help my family and my friends. So my family and friends that weren't involved in real estate, I'm trying to draw them in as partners. And as far as keeping that relationship in good order, I think it's about setting expectations. So my partners, it's basically hands off. You're right. They just blindly hand me money, but they know who I am. They know my background. They know that, I'm not skipping town. I'm not the flaky kind of person. So those relationships have benefited me, and hopefully I've provided benefits to them. But those are the people that I go to first. If I have a deal, then I want to go to either a coworker or former coworker of mine, a friend, a family member. Those are the people that I'm trying to help in this.
Yeah, maybe not blindly, right? You're very upfront with what you will provide,
for sure,
and what they will provide, and what the agreement is, and then they trustingly hand you the money, and then blindly let you do what you should do with it, right? And I think that's a big part of it is, like, don't get the plumber to do your electricity, right? Like, you're trusting the guy who's done this, and now you have a great resume of this. The first couple might have been a little bit harder to sell, but now when you've done like more, and you have established partner with you, it just seems to make even more sense. And I think for me, I agree with you 100%. Like, I don't do business with anybody who I don't have a relationship with. In fact, you've been here as I've cut ties from my early days in business with people that I'm like, you know what, I just don't fucking like this guy. Why are you leaving that company? I don't like them. I will not go out to dinner with this guy. I would not meet him for a drink. I will not have a coffee with them. They're no longer somebody I'll do business with, right? Why would you? So I think it's kind of opposite, but also being cautious of, you don't want to do business and ruin a good friendship is kind of always something.
Yeah, you still got to pick the right friends and the right family members, right? Like, there's a lot of my family members and friends that I can just tell that would be too uneasy, right? They'd be calling every other day and saying, what's going on now? So you're right. People that you can trust, people that you have a relationship with that have similar interests. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what exactly are you guys doing together? We've kind of like beat around the bush. Like, what are you doing together? Is there anything anybody who's listening could maybe reach out? Like, what are you doing? Let's talk about that. You're flipping. You don't even know.
I don't know, Joe. What are we doing? We just keep buying houses and coming up with a plan afterwards.
That's kind of how it works. Yeah.
No, we flipped one house. So we bought the house in East Windsor there, and we had a great plan in place. We came up with a budget. He ran his numbers and I ran my numbers completely separate, and we put them together. And although I may have been higher in plumbing and he was lower in this and that, like, we were literally like $5,000 off of our total budget numbers. So we were on the same page, and it was our first project. We were 2 weeks later than we wanted to be. We were maybe $1,000 over budget, and we made more money than we expected to make when we set out to do it. So it was a success, and I think halfway through that we started looking at some other stuff. We were going to offer on a complete gut in Walkerville. That was a big project. Like, we would have needed investors and everything, and we didn't get it. But it's probably a good thing, because it's a little bit of a cart ahead of the horse. But I don't know. We're both on the same mindset that real estate is a win no matter what. And the most recent one we walked in and we bought, I don't think he wanted anything to do with it, and it was disgusting inside. It reeked, and I walked out with a smile on my face and said, "This is a gold mine." So we walked right back in, and we made an offer in the living room and had a handshake deal, and now we're working on it. So it's, don't look back.
That's awesome.
So is there some like excitement a little bit in the fact, like, real estate is obviously talked about a lot, that it's like a pretty good thing, but nothing's a sure thing ever, right? Is there a bit of like excitement in the buying of a big project, just knowing that it necessarily won't work out, and like you are taking that kind of gamble and risk towards it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's risk anytime you're investing in anything. I think we try and mitigate the risks as much as we can by, running numbers and making sure we're on the same page and what this property is going to cost, and having a backup plan for what the property, the original or the house we just purchased, we have two plans for it, whether it's going to be a flip or a long-term rental. So just making sure that you're prepared for whatever comes at you. Right. If the market tanks, hey, we're fine. We're going to hold this thing and rent it out, and it'll cash flow fine.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, let's read in an ad right now. So speaking about insuring, let's talk about Murray Insurance. This episode is sponsored by them. Murray Insurance and Financial Services in Kingsville, Ontario. They're Southwestern Ontario's #1 ranked Desjardins insurance agency by their clients, and they're owned by Garage Gym Kingsville OGs Ian and Kara Murray. Ian and Kara's team prides themselves on many of the high standards the Garage Gym members have come to expect. They are absolute experts in their industry. They have combined over 100 years of experience in their office. They're the best customer service in the industry. They have a claims concierge service, which is exclusive to their clients. And they focus on community, employing local team members, and investing back into the Essex County community on a continual basis. They're a one-stop shop for everything to protect you, your family, and your assets with the best policies in the industry. Give their team a call today or send them a text at 519-733-2331. 519-733-2331. Or check them out at murrayinsurance.ca. Ian and Kara, thank you for always supporting everything that we do here. All right, so what you guys are doing is awesome, and it's I went through an absolute dive with the two of you, and we were looking at right before COVID. Remember the one on Jeanette? Yeah. And I was actually concerned about having PTSD, might be getting my flashbacks when we were going in there. But that gave me a whole new appreciation for what you guys do, because when you walk in there, it's just like. It's overwhelming to think and to see the beauty that could happen, and the money that you could make off a piece of shit, like an absolute garbage, like the worst.
Those are the ones that excite us the most. Like, we walk through a property and he'll have an investor with him, and I'm playing realtor at the time, and we walk through a property. I'm like, this is awesome, Joe, and his investors will be like they don't even want to be in there anymore. I'm like, no, this is what we look for, a complete shithole that we can, you're going to gut it even if it's like a little bit nice, you're going to gut it anyway. So if it's a complete shithole, even better, right? Gut it to the studs. And I think that one we looked at with you was what, a potential 4-plex or a potential 3-unit we were going to
3 or
turn
4,
it into?
I think you wanted to do.
Yeah. So, and I like keeping tabs on those to see what whoever bought it does with it. But those are the ones that excite me. I love shitholes.
Hey, all right. Well,
how's this?
That's why we're all such a good friend. So let's go back. Let's stay away from the friendship for a minute and let that one die down. But Joe, let's talk with you. I know. So one thing I love about you is, and I know Ty, you dabble in this too, but I want to talk about pensions specifically because there's so many cops that listen to this, and I feel like cops and at your old job. Everybody's so pension, which is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. However, it's not the only way. And I think people are so fearful of making the step that you and I took because of losing that pension. But what I found was, and what's been my experience so far, 3 years out, is that I took the pension. I took the money that I saved, and it's my money to do what I want with. And I think last year, Omer's had a 1%, was a 1% return or something crazy like that. Whereas, your investments have had significantly more than that, and as have mine. I do have some traditionals, and I also have, some property investment and real estate investment. So what are some of the things that people maybe aren't thinking of that are sitting? Because I know there's a lot of people in this gym who are maybe considering moving to another position or doing something that makes them passionate or that creates that fire for them. What could they think about when they're talking in terms of pension and ways to go and make different routes to build wealth?
Well, first of all, you're right. That pension, you're not throwing it away if you do quit under most circumstances, right? You're taking a chunk of that money. You're taking a chunk of that money, and you're going to be able to invest it in how you want.
So first thing is to make sure you're not throwing away the money.
Exactly.
First step, yeah.
Make sure you're not throwing that away. But to me, it's about taking ownership of your money, and nobody's going to care for it like you do. Not a pension company, not a mutual fund manager, not a financial advisor. For me, it was all about giving me the authority and the power to do what I want to do with my money, to make sure that if I failed, it was on me. I didn't want to give that responsibility to somebody else. I mean, I had done it for a little while, investing in mutual funds through a financial advisor, and didn't really seem to be getting me anywhere. And I never really, understood why it was advised to invest in RSPs when I had a pension. To me, that didn't make much sense, right? You've got a pension. The idea is that you're going to be collecting 60 to 70% of your best 5 years, 20 years from now. So why do you need all this money saved up in a mutual fund that you're going to be taxed on that almost at the same rate that you would have been now? And that's assuming tax rates don't change. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but there's been a lot of money that's been printed from our government, and they need to pay that back somehow. The debt is astronomical. So how do they pay that back? It's going to be through raising taxes. So if your tax rate right now is at 30% and you're worried about it, what's it going to be like when you're 60 years old and you want to pull that mutual fund money out? The tax rates are going up. So are you going to be any better off than taking it out now and doing what you want to do with it?
Right. And I think you also hit on an important thing there too with guys in Casey's position. Like you don't want to quit the fire department, but also it doesn't make sense to maybe for you to be investing in that very traditional sense of RSPs because you will have such a great rate, or you will be getting such a great pension. So people who have pensions are also, in my opinion, misinvesting their money because you're kind of like getting double taxed at the end of it. You're not making the most returns that you can. It's not even for the people that want to quit. It's just terms. And I think what I was going when I first started, I said one of the things that I really respect about you, and like Taya, when you got into real estate, or you as a fireman, me as a cop, people in the gym, you don't like look at the person who's like deadlifting the same as you, or like the fireman who's kind of the medium of the pack guy, or the guy who barely makes his like commissions. You're looking at what is the best guy doing, right? And I think a lot of people with their money, and you mentioned it in your preamble and us over cigars so many times, instead of looking at what are the wealthy people doing, you're looking at like, what's your neighbor doing? Well, your neighbor's living exactly the same as you, like,
Right.
Like, so that's, I think, a very important thing to do is like look at what the best people are doing in your industry and in terms of investments and wealth, and mimic that maybe at a smaller degree, but eventually it'll start to pay terms.
For sure.
So you got something there, Case? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's just comparable in the way of like, I just think of it in our kind of areas. Like you wouldn't go to your high school gym if you're a university athlete to go train with those guys. Well, you might in some senses, but like if you have the opportunity to go train with NFL players, that's where you're going to go, because that's where you're going to get the best training, that's where you're going to get the most experience, and that's where you're going to perform the best in your next season, right? So why would you do the same thing on a business side? Is the people who are at your level or below you, go to them for advice or look at how they're doing things, when go to the people at the top of their game, because that's what you want to get to, not where you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to, one of the things I told myself probably 5 years ago, we become so passive, we get comfortable in what we're doing, and we're just out there earning. Never stop learning. Never be afraid to stop learning, right? You have to continue to educate yourself. One of my big hurdles is becoming a real estate investor. To get my second and third was like, I don't want to fork out that 20% down payment, right? I was like, I'm going to have to come up with $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 that, it will take a while to recoup that based on your monthly cash flows. Then, we discovered this other strategy that was out there, the Burr method, and it just opens up a whole new world of how things can be done. And I would have never known that had I not started listening to podcasts and going to conventions in Toronto with Joe and the various different things that we do. We're never afraid to stop learning. Like we'll be at a convention and they want to teach. That's how we got into stock hacking. We were at a convention, they were teaching real estate investing, but then they talked for 10 minutes about this, and $2,600 to sign up, and everyone's like folding the paper under their lap, and we couldn't sign it fast enough because we knew that it sounded good, it made sense, and if like I've spent $2,500 on a lot of dumber things before in my life, like a weekend in Vegas. So if I'm going to spend it on something that's actually going to educate me and I can earn that back in the first couple months of doing what they're teaching me to do, win-win, right? So that's one of my big things is anytime education's been presented to me, as long as it's along the lines of what my mentality is and the road I'm going, I'm in.
Yeah, return on investment, man. That's what we're constantly. I think that's the biggest thing. We've spent so much money on mentorship and course. How fast can you get return on that investment? Like, how long did it take you stock hacking to get your $2,500 back?
Yeah, a month.
Months.
So pretty fucking sweet deal, guys. Like everybody's so scared to make that, like, you know, you want to get a coach. We say it every single time, get a coach. If you're relying on yourself to do everything, like learn from people who have done it and then learn. And then when you top out on that coach, learn from the next guy. Like just keep leveling up to that potential.
And as a coach, get a coach. Like think about when we would do new courses, we'd do stuff with the Muscle Doc, or we'd go to Indiana with Jay. It was like we thought we knew what we were talking about, and we did to the level that we were trained to. But then we'd come back after a weekend or a week course, and the clients are like, holy shit, like we took it up another level. So now they're more interested, and then you're getting more referrals and more people involved. So even as like a professional, always have someone above you to give you more advice, because then you're gonna.
And I think with seminars and courses, like you guys know this, like you guys are killing it. However, you're still investing in yourselves, but spending a weekend away together in Toronto, learning some stuff, going out to dinner, having some drinks, like that is a break from life as well. And you come back, and I feel like you come back from those things, and even if you didn't learn one thing on the course, you come back with a greater friendship, a greater appreciation for being home, like, and you know, like a break from the wife, the kids, the normal stuff. And you also met people that sat next to you, that sat at a table like this with you on a conference, and then those connections pay dividends for years and years and years. You have no idea.
You don't even learn anything. I've gone to conventions before where I'm like, this was a complete fail as far as, you know, getting new knowledge, but it got the mojo going again. Because sometimes you get a little complacent and you're comfortable with what you're doing, but you need a little kick in the ass every once in a while. I find that these things, no matter what, to go down there and spend $600 or whatever it is just to get somebody to light a fire under your ass again and give you maybe one new idea. Like, you know, I come home and I'm on Instagram like for a full week because Ty must have went to a convention.
That's my chirp to Ty already. Oh, he's back on Instagram for a week.
Media, and I need to hire somebody to do it. But these are the types of things that they just remind you. They light the fire and they get you going again, if nothing else.
And
the content
reassurance too, right? Because like you might go and have somebody who's again up above making all this money, and you're already doing those things, right? So it might be like, oh shit, I am doing the right things, I just might have to step on the gas even more. Right. So that's that same reassurance to like
Sometimes you go to those conferences and you get, you know, put off into your little rooms or your little tables. Now it's little break rooms on Zoom, but you get put off in those things and you think that you're not, like we tend to always like take away from what we're doing. Like we don't give ourselves enough credit a lot of times. And then you get at that table and you're like, man, I'm doing pretty damn good to consider. Like maybe I shouldn't be here. The content's kind of shit on this course, but like, you know, you come back feeling like empowered. Like you're like, man, we've been doing some right things around the garage gym or at Morden Realty or, you know, Stacyszyn Realty, whatever you're doing. Like it's awesome. And so let's go back to the friendship. I think one of the coolest things is like surround yourself with like-minded people. That's the logo on our wall. And it really comes back to this group of guys that, you know, Joe and I have been hanging out since we were 5-6 years old. Mike Stadden jumped in, and then we just started adding on to this group. Ty in high school, and now we're going on like 30-something years of friendship. Pour a drink, man. Also weird is that all these years I've never seen you guys drink so little, especially when the booze is free.
You said the ice makes too much noise.
No, go for it. Here, go for it. I'll get back into this. I'll read another add-in actually while you guys load up your drinks. And you guys all know this guy. He's a great dude. Seamus McCabe. He's getting jacked with me in the gym, part of my mentorship program, but he is killing it in business. Seamus from 4 Leaf Renovations. He's a carpenter by trade, and he will bring your dreams and vision to life. If you're looking for amazing, clean, custom, and I know you guys appreciate this, a couple of real estate guys, on-time renovations, call Seamus McCabe at 4 Leaf Renovations, 226-346-1804, or go to his website, www.4leafrenovations.com, and fill out the quote and application form. Tell him Tango One sent you.
Great guy, done work for us.
Yeah.
Recommend.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And yeah, he has done work for us too, which is amazing. I won't get it. Drummond was over last night. I won't get into what he pulled off and Seamus might have done for Drummond in our bathroom, but that's a long story. Another podcast. So yeah, we got back to like, you know, I think one of the reasons we have a good group of people and we've been together for a long time, but we've also been very protective of that group. We've had some, you know, guys, we'll call it transient friends that have come in, you know, they've been a solid part of their group. They always will remain part of, like, always be welcome into our households, but they're not maybe welcomed into those exclusive little trips that we do, not exclusive for us, that we do together. And I think we've lived it up. Like, our 20s, our 30s, even our teens going away, like May 24 is coming. Like, there was not a May 24 where you weren't meeting us from Toronto or London, wherever you were. We were going to Pinery and, you know, all these different crazy things, which, you know, turned into Vegas and turned into New Orleans. And, like, I don't know if there's a city in the States we haven't visited together. We go away 3 times a year together as it is. And I think the 9 to 5s really funded that fun. And I think those experiences that we had on all of those trips together that made us all want more. Because really, outside of Mikey, nobody really works a traditional job anymore. And Mikey's job is outstanding. And he does, like, amazing things. He got to travel the world because of this. I think it comes down to friendships and groups. And, you know, none of us locked ourselves down. If there's advice I would give any young man is, like, not locking yourself down. We all had relationships, but we didn't start to have kids. Like, we didn't, like, meet the girl and want to have the kids like a year later. We were like, meet the girl, enjoy your time with that woman, enjoy your time with each other, enjoy our times as couples together. And then we all started to have kids late in our 30s, and we seem to be standing at a much happier place than a lot of other people did. Like, can you guys speak to that at all? Like, if you know, you have nephews, you have sons, what are some of those advices that you're giving to them on those kinds of things?
There's 2 different sides to the coin. Like, I know, well, my sister personally, and then another good buddy of ours that had kids when they were younger because they were oopses, right? And at the time, yes, they kind of missed out on some of the things that we got to do when we were younger, but now their kids are all grown and they're starting to party.
They're doing some awesome things
our
now.
kids
We are
young.
I feel like it's one end of the spectrum or the other. Don't do it in the middle, maybe, is the key. Because
Somewhere
you're
in the middle,
right.
happy median, right?
Because those people are like, yeah, we're available tonight. What the fuck else are we doing? You're like,
exactly.
oh, wow, okay.
Our kids will bring us there. They can drive us. But it's, yeah, I mean, we've got a very unique core group of friends that, you know, it's a huge pride of mine to say that we've known each other. We've known all of us, the 5 or 6 of us, for, like you say, 20, 30 years. Some even more. I think some of them I've known since I was 7 or 8 years old. Like, you guys are family, right? So to have that core group of friends and stick together this long through thick and thin. We've been through quite a few different things, but we always find a way to have fun. I think we had a running joke that we could put 2 lawn chairs in an empty field and still have a great time. Like,
We did.
Yeah, we did do that once, didn't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then back then, like, when I was living with Drummond, like, I was scrounging money to get afford to go to Vegas. It was the last dime I had, but I'm like, I'm not fucking missing this. There's no way. They're gonna come home and tell me all the great stories? No. So yeah, those are the things that you can't turn down, and builds friendships stronger, and you learn from it, and wouldn't do it any other way.
It's so funny that we're here talking about saving money when all of us, like, we never turned down a trip.
Idiots, yeah.
And I think one of the coolest things was, like, Joe, I mean, I've borrowed significant amounts of money off of you. I've helped you to make sure that you could go on a trip. Ty, you've lent, you know, we've lent each other, like, oh man, you can't afford that flight. Like, here you go. Like, we're all going to take care of it. Pay us back. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Like, it's just kind of been the way our group's done it. And everybody at some point has been the guy that's needed the help. And there's always been the group there to always pick us up. That's been a pretty sweet part of this things.
For sure.
So
It's been nice to see over the last, like, 5 years, you know, when we got to pay for fantasy football or satellite or whatever it is. It used to be like you're chasing guys 2 to 3 weeks later, and now it's like, boom, oh, he paid me. Everybody's paying right away. It's like we're all big boys now. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, I should have never been the commissioner back in the day. It's a way easier job now.
That is good to hear. That, like, I think that's a big thing that people get caught up. I know a lot of people my age get caught up on is it's like you want to have fun, but you get so caught up in, like, the grind of doing stuff, right? So I think that's something good to hear, is that, like, you still grind, but when you have the opportunities to go away and enjoy your time, to do that, because I'm sure it refuels you and makes you excited to come back home, right, and get back into it. So it's good. It's nice to hear from you guys who have done it, to say, like, work hard and do everything you have to do, but when you have the opportunity, go and do it. So you don't just run yourself.
Otherwise, what are you doing it for? Like, I guess you're doing it to save for your future, but at the same time, it's kind of morbid, but life's short. You never know what's going to happen, right? So I'm of the mindset that, like, enjoy life as much as you can. You're constantly sitting there saving your money and missing out on this and that, and you're going to look back and say, yeah, I've got a bunch of money now, but I didn't do anything with my life, right? You only get one run at it. So we haven't missed the boat on that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that people, and to the other spectrum, like you talked about the people that had kids really young who now have all this freedom. I think what our group has done that's very unique is that we didn't like whatever that Ben Franklin quote I butcher up, but it's like men turn 25 and then they, basically you get married, have kids and die because it just becomes like the rat race like you talked about at the start of this thing, Ty. And I think we've although it's not as often, we still really make a point to hey, we're due all of us together, guys only, or hey, all of us in the couples. We make a point to just be together. And I think we've made that expectation. It's not like we told our wives that. We've just said, this is how it is with us. And instead of them, and to their credit, instead of them
having resentment
and not wanting that, they're this is what these guys need. And they love it. And they are just as much a part of all of us as that. And I think that's been a huge key is, including the wives all the time, but also spending some time together and establishing that as something that we knew that's very important to us in our relationships and our friendships. And we're able to go to, your cottage, just the guys for so many years. And now just the guys with our little boys. It's just amazing, man.
I can't tell you how many times Julie's told me, you need to go have a cigar with Tony and a drink, right? It's just getting out, and she's now embraced that, or always has, because it was always part of expectations, right? It wasn't something new that, now I need to go out and go on vacation. It's just always happened. She knew how important my friends were, and it's always been like that.
Yeah, so I think it's just like you talked about at the start, Joe, with your investors that are coming. It's the upfront conversations that people maybe don't have in their relationships. It's okay, yeah. Do you guys, most of us have sat down and had the conversation. It was for us, at least at home, I think for you guys as well, it was yes, let's try to have some kids. Let's see. But when the kids came, it was also hey, we still both need to do these things separately and to keep those relationships. And I think our relationships have actually gotten stronger. We still, to this day, don't miss a Sunday football, together. We will miss them individually, but the group is still getting together. All the kids come, the wives pop in and out. It's just embrace that as an extended family rather as, something that you dread, or even worse, that you just don't have anymore and you lose out of your life.
Well, then don't you have two happy people in the household too? I read Laird Hamilton's book, Life Rider, and him and his wife, Gabby Reese, was a pro volleyball player, but he's a pro big wave surfer, travels the world. That's his sole purpose. And now he does a bunch of things with nutrition and all different training techniques. But they talk about all the time is how he she'll allow him to, if he needs to, he'll be there's a big swell off the coast of wherever, I need to leave today to go do it. Because they've gotten to a point where she knows if he doesn't, then her husband's not going to be home for the next 2 weeks anyways, because he's just going to be resentful and he's sitting there upset and all this stuff. Or when this big opportunity comes, let him go and do it. And now you have that person that you fell in love with back in the house, super excited, super pumped, and things are good, right? And I find I think we've done, we always talk about all the time, is you have to let your partner go do those things that make them who they are, and vice versa, because then now you're two happy people doing that together. So
yeah, it's important to be on the same page. I'm even with investing, the last one that we just purchased, I just went out to look at it, and I said, I'm going to look at a house with Joe, and she's like for Joe or for us or for who? I said, well, we're contemplating maybe doing this one together. And I came home and she's like, how'd it go? I said, we bought it. She said, what's that? I said, we bought it. We had a handshake deal in the living room. I'm writing the offer right now. And she's cool with that. She trusts that this is my business and that I know what I'm doing, and they're gonna have input too. They want to do the design for this one, because the last one everybody was busy and we kind of took over ourselves. But they like being involved, and having somebody understanding like that, where I can just come home and say, yeah, I just bought a house, without talking to you about it. Being on the same page is pretty good. It's pretty important. Yeah.
It's true. And Joe, I remember distinctly having a cigar with you in the basement, and you're I really want to do this. I don't know where the conversation came, and you kind of said well, what do you think? And it was about Julie, but I was looking at it more of as when you're married, you're a team. And I was well, why don't you just see if she wants to get more involved? And I feel since she started taking courses and becoming because it was kind of your little pet project. And once Julie came on board, I feel that's when you blew up, because you had somebody at home that was just like, yeah, this is awesome, and wanting to be included. And that's good to hear
Because
that.
you and Julie are now working together, right?
Yeah,
an extent, or she's involved with it?
She's more involved. At first, like you were saying, she really had no involvement in it, but after I brought her along to one of the conferences, she sat there and said, like, holy shit, you're doing all this stuff that they're teaching. And then she was all on board. She wanted to get really involved. So she's been to a few conferences with me, and she's what used to be like a time hindrance on the family, she now sees as an opportunity.
As investments and opportunities.
Yeah.
That's great. And that's kind of how the garage gym grew too. Like, it was kind of my thing. It had really nothing to do with Danny. It was like, I was like, I just trained some people and then expose her to that same thing. And it's like, she grew this fire for it. And then what happens? It just builds and builds, especially if you're all in. And that's what you should be in your household.
Yeah.
Is all in together on all these things. I think that's great things to live and learn by. So let's go. So now you said, Ty, I think you said, the only thing I wish I would have done is do some of this stuff earlier. This is you right here. Okay, this is you. Like, how many years ago? Except for her, you're making more money than he probably was on Letterhead, right?
Probably,
like,
yeah.
So what would you kind of have? What would you do if you were Casey's age right now?
Well, if I was a firefighter,
You got a job,
celebrate.
you've got a house. I'd make some soup. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
I'd shine the
a little bit
truck.
different with a
I'd
gig
put some
like
short
that.
shorts on, and
That's
that's
a
it.
solid gig to have at any age. But I don't know. As far as an investment side of things, if you're looking to, start thinking about what am I going to invest in, what am I going to do to grow my portfolio, just start listening to podcasts, start going to various different conventions, or chum up with some people that are doing it already, and don't be afraid. Trust the professionals. Don't be afraid to dive in, and obviously do your research and make sure that it's everything's checks out. But like, when I say I wish I would have done it earlier, I contemplated buying a house for a few years before that, and it just never seemed to work out. And that was kind of an anomaly, because Drum and I bought that together, right? And we were going to live up and down, and then we were good buddies. We went to Vegas, and we were like, hey, why don't we live together and basically live mortgage free? And that was kind of the beginning. They call it house hacking now, and I didn't even know what that term was back then. But we basically paid our bills, because the tenant upstairs paid for our entire mortgage. So if anybody can get into that type of scenario now, which I feel like is even more important with these first time home buyers, because they can't afford it. So buy a house with a buddy, right? If whatever you got to do to get into the market, whether you have to buy a house with a buddy, or you have to buy something and just rent it out because you can't even afford to live there, whatever it is, get some property. If that's what you're looking for, a real estate investment, get in the market. Just get in the market one way or another.
So what are some other outlooks to look for? I know you guys talked about the book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the go-to people to research, some of the best podcasts to listen to, some of other books that you guys have read? Where would be the first kind of places to look into and to do the research?
Personally, I like local podcasts, like Ontario, Canada. Bigger Pockets is a massive one in the States, but there's one called The Truth About Real Estate Investing. There's one called Breakthrough Real Estate Investing. Both of them are out of the GTA. They're great. As far as books, there's a book called Real Estate Investing for Canadians by Don Campbell, who runs a massive real estate network. It's also very good. I don't know if you have any other ones.
I can't think of the names of the book, but Gary Keller, the author Gary Keller, I think he's maybe started Keller Williams, has a lot of good books about real estate and real estate investing. But it's a simple Google, but stick to Canada, because obviously everything's a little bit different. But yeah, if you Google, good Canadian-based real estate books or podcasts, I started listening to the one he mentioned, The Truth About Real Estate Investing. And that opened a lot of doors for me, even stuff that being a realtor for 6 years at that point that I didn't even know, right? Workarounds, creative ways to finance deals. A lot of people don't think about borrowing other people's money. You want to borrow the bank's money at 2%. You can borrow somebody else's money at 10 or 12%. And it was like, whoa, that's crazy. But at the end of the day, if the numbers still work out and you're still going to make your money, what you're paying them doesn't matter. And it's important to keep paying them because you want to keep bringing them back to the table. So all those podcasts but I would start with the Rich Dad Poor Dad series. I think there's 3?
Yeah.
Isn't there 3?
Yeah.
So what would you say to people then? Like, that's obviously younger get into it. What would you say to people a little older in your age bracket where you're trying to either manage the job you're in or you want to dive into real estate? Same kind of things. Like, would you just say those are the spots to start off with, link up with friends and start making moves?
I think you got to educate yourself somehow. So whether it be by books, there's local meetup groups in Windsor. Wind City Investors Group is one of them. Before COVID, we would meet up once a month, and it would just be a bunch of investors there. We'd bring speakers in from outside of Windsor to talk about a strategy or accounting or whatever, different topics every time. But surrounding yourself with people that are doing stuff is probably one of the major things to really just like bring it home, like bring it real, right? When you see other people succeeding, it's just a matter of finding out how you can implement their strategies to help you succeed.
Yeah, and I think with the stuff that you're talking about is, for me, like, I'm doing pretty good with this stuff too, but I am very hands off. So there's other ways of doing it. It's like, educate yourself, talk to people that you respect and know, then go to people that you have relationships with and be willing to. These people, like you're saying, Ty, like somebody needs money and they need it now. Mm-hmm. And that's why they're willing to pay 10 or 12%, which you guys on that project that you didn't get might have needed. And then maybe I was the answer to that, right? Where now I'm making the investment with these guys. I'm essentially a partner, but I'm hands off. But I'm also getting a 10 to 12% return. Right. And then on the back end, whatever we worked out, or the appreciated house, whatever that might be. You don't have to be all in like these guys to do what you're doing. Like, 12, 17% is that's a pretty good return on your money, man. Like, for doing jack all, right?
Sometimes it's just an introduction. Like, sometimes you just need to be introduced to the right people so that you can park your money with them. A lot of people don't know these opportunities exist. Now, there is risk that goes along with these things, but that's where your research and your education comes into play, because if you have a friend that's an appraiser, they can probably look up the value of the house at the time and the value of what that house will be when you're done with it.
Do you know anybody who does that?
Yeah, I might know someone.
Hey, do you guys want to buy a house?
You just got to educate yourself. And if you educate yourself and cross your T's and dot your I's, and at the end of the day, then, that is a much more solid investment. And like you say, you don't have to be hands-on. Right. You can just say, here's $100,000. In 12 months, give me back $120,000. That's pretty good. Like, a lot of people don't get that type of return. Yeah. Most people don't.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. And like the whole idea of like first-time home buyers and things like that, like, with you and Brooke being like Ty said, like young and having these jobs. So I was young and had that great job with a great income, and not all of my friends did. So I had a solution to their problem. Joe and Matt didn't want to live at home. They moved in with me. I didn't rip them off. They paid little to no rent, really, but it was enough that my mortgage was paid, and then that the money that was paid was going elsewhere to build, for my future. And so it's kind of, there's always somebody with the solution to your problem that needs your help, that you can work if you're willing to look outside the box. Mm-hmm. So let's talk. Now we got Casey, young man here. We want to continue to make sure that the gentleman rules that we've established do not go away. So go out to dinner. 4 guys. What's happening? What do we know from the outcome? We don't need to discuss it. What's happening?
Don't order a salad.
Yes.
When you can get a steak.
Don't order a salad when you get a steak, because when 4 men go out to dinner, you're fucking splitting the bill. That's right. You're splitting the bill, right?
Oh, you got an appetizer? That's adorable.
Yeah,
Sorry
good
about that.
for you, cheapskate. We're splitting it.
Credit cards have to go in a hat.
Yeah.
One thing you learned.
Yeah, we had this legendary game we play, credit card game. And we all put it's the worst game, actually. I like the splitting the bill better. Yeah. But the credit card game, you put in, you got to call it before the game starts. Everybody says we're putting the credit cards in, and everybody just goes all out. Get whatever you want to eat. This would be even more fun now that everybody actually has a decent amount of money. And at the end of it, the credit cards go in, and the last card. So it's so fun because the waitress comes out and draws them, and everybody cheers. Because when your card gets pulled, you're not actually paying. Like so it's like elimination. So that very last card that gets pulled has to pay, and it seems to always fall on the guy who doesn't want it the most, right? Yeah. It's like whenever you're at your weakest moment, that's when you get hit with that credit card bill.
I'm due because I don't think I've ever gotten one.
Oh,
Just jinxed yourself.
Time to
there.
go out.
yeah, time to go out. I can't wait to go out to dinner with you guys again. Awesome, guys. So thank you so much for coming on. Wish you guys all the best. Ty, you're the one who's more outgoing for clients. How do people get a hold of you if they want to sell, buy a house, do anything else that you offer?
I mean, I'm the only Stacyszyn in the world, so that's the nice thing about it. You could Google my name and you'll find my Instagram, my Facebook, my phone number is everywhere. I don't hide my cell phone. So, but yeah, I think it's at Stacyszyn for Instagram and Stacyszyn on Facebook. I have a business page and a normal page. Yeah, pretty easy to find. And then my website's tysoldit.com. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. And Joe, if you are taking clients, are you taking clients?
Yep.
All right.
Joe Morden on Facebook or Morden Realty on Instagram.
And maybe I know, make sure that we did clarify what type of clients are you taking for what? Maybe
Investors for real estate.
so if somebody's looking
money partners
to put money into a real estate project that you're running,
exactly,
get a hold of Joe, or anybody who needs to get a hold of either of these guys can obviously hit me up for referrals. For paid referrals now. We take it in friendship and cigars. So thank you guys very much. I hope everybody learned something from this show, and that is a wrap. Cheers.
Thank you. It's fun.
Now's the time to do more and be more.